Been two great serve and volley players. Tim Henman against Pat Rafter next on centre court, and don't forget we've also got Sam Smith, the British #1 woman, with that big challenge against Natalie Tosiat. That's due later on court #1. Well, while we're waiting to take you back into centre court, where Wimbledon always attracts celebrities and sports personalities of all kinds, Colin Montgomerie has been a visitor here today, and we'll be following his progress in the Open Championship with great interest in a couple of weeks' time. I talked to him during the rain delay we had. Colin, it's good to see you in these rather unfamiliar surroundings. Are you, or have you ever been, a tennis player?
Not really, not really. I have a court at home now, but it hasn't been used the last year. I've been too busy. But I always used to watch the tennis from Wimbledon, obviously. I remember my first view of it was, I think, the Borg-Nastase final way back when, before Borg had his famous games of McEnroe, and I always got involved in it. I think the competition has been interesting for me, to use it back to... for my own golf, that to watch the competitiveness of the two players and who's going well or who's not, and you can see their reactions to things, and I learn from that.
So in golfing terms, what sort of kind of player would you relate to most, a Borg or a Nastase?
Hopefully, you would like to think you were more Borg, but the more human element comes out to a sort of Nastase or a McEnroe type of thing, where I suppose talent and yet forced with a little bit of temperament and anxiety and what's happening. But I always admired Borg for who he was and who he stood for in the game. I mean, it was remarkable to perform that way and for so long.
You've seen your sport develop no end in recent years, but what do you make of the surroundings here, that magnificent #1
Yeah,
court?
well, I haven't been back here before, and to see that is incredible. I mean, people who haven't been here wouldn't realise that it is actually quite confined here, and yet you've got 20-odd courts here in remarkable condition. Just walking by them, you realise that how much attention has been given to them. Playing on grass myself, we never see fairways or even greens of this quality.
You see quite a few fairways there, don't you?
Well, hopefully.
Now, what about your own sport at the moment and the US Open experience, which wasn't entirely comfortable? Glad to be back?
Not really. Yeah, glad to be away, really. Yeah, you know, it's a hostile environment over there, and I was glad to get away and to think about it and react to it next time when I go over for the USPGA back in Seattle in August, and I'll learn from experience and be better acquainted with the situation next time.
But we come away from Wimbledon and we're building up then steadily to what we regard as our next big summer event, which is the Open Championship at Birkdale. How do you now prepare for that? What's the path into Birkdale?
Well, I've got 2 big weeks beforehand. I'm defending the Irish Open next week. I leave tomorrow for that, and then of course the Scottish Open up in Loch Lomond. So I've got 2 big weeks beforehand, which I would rather do without. I'd rather have a quieter time before the British Open comes along, but it just happens to be the calendar the way it's worked out. But 3 big weeks in my year, obviously, building up to the British Open, which is obviously, being a British golfer, is my most important event.
And well, we had Sam Torrance winning this weekend.
Great.
What is happening to the sport?
Great for him. Yeah, I mean, at 45 years old, you know, in tennis you finished at what, near on 30 nowadays, so it's great that we can go on. I'm 35 myself now, and it's great that I'm coming into a sort of peak, I suppose. 35 to 40 is when you are hopefully physically fit and also mentally.
Now, the British Challenge goes on here. I know you're going to nip off and watch some tennis during the course of the rest of the afternoon. Thoughts for Tim Henman and Sam Smith and how you control those nerves? You're a past master at it, but she's going to feel pretty nervous coming on to #1.
Oh, she is. She is. Her first time on a show court as such, and it'll be nervous for her. But I think Tim Henman has a great opportunity to go forward. I think Pat Rafter hasn't performed so well since he won the US Open, so it'll be great for Britain, and he's the whole of Britain behind him.
So you follow tennis. I know you follow just about every sport, but Scotland out of the World Cup, that means your interest is ended?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm Scottish first, and then I become British now, and you know, all go for tomorrow night against Argentina. And I think, although I'm in Ireland, I'll be definitely in my room with room service that night and watching the game, and hopefully they can do the stuff.
Good to see you here, and try and keep the rain away, won't you?
Thanks.
And he's achieved that so far. Colin Montgomerie talking earlier. Straight after that, he headed into centre court, hoping to see Tim Henman and Pat Rafter, and we're going to do the same. Here they come, Tim Henman, aiming for a quarter-final place for the 3rd straight year. But what a battle he's in for against the number 6 seed, the US Open champion, Pat Rafter. It could be a very entertaining battle as well. Inside centre court, we'll join Pat Cash and John Barrett.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, well, as you saw, the welcome for both men of the sort you would expect on such a poignant moment in the careers of both of them. This man trying to carry the hopes of Great Britain on his shoulders and trying once again to reach the quarter-final, which he's done here for the last 2 years. At the age of 23, still not yet at his peak. A world ranking currently of 18. It was as high as 14 last January. Well, January last year, when he'd won his first tournament in Sydney. And you'll see there the best performances that he's had at the Grand Slams have been here, twice the quarter-finalist. And his opponent today, one of the truly great serve and volleyers, as he showed us at the US Open last year when he won his first Grand Slam title, 25 now, seeded 6 in the world, and world ranking of 6 rather, and seeded here 6, and has been as high as 2. That was following that US Open victory last September. And here at Wimbledon, well, he's been in the 4th round twice, so he's never been a quarter-finalist. This, a 4th round meeting with a prize of a quarter-final place waiting for both of them. And this is going to be a great moment indeed, I think. And Pat Cash is with me. Must know exactly what it feels like to be standing out there with a quarter-final place beckoning.
Well, both the players are certainly going to be very keen, very pumped up to play. I think they both feel that this is a great opportunity for them to have their best results ever at Wimbledon. And you know, 2 players who should be pretty much right on at their peak in their careers around this time. You know, Rafter's obviously US Open champion. He's played well. He hasn't played so well this year, but he's coming into form. And then Henman, of course, the favourite. He's playing in front of a home crowd. I mean, that is just a fantastic advantage to have that support behind you. It's like playing a Davis Cup match. And as we know, anything can happen in Davis Cup, and usually does, with the crowd support behind you. So
this is how he reached this round. 5 sets against Jerry Novak, 4 sets against David Menken of South Africa, 4 sets against Byron Black, the man he'll play again in September when Britain and Zimbabwe. No, excuse me, that was the meeting last year of Britain and Zimbabwe, the one we lost. What I was really thinking of there, Pat Cash, was that it was Zimbabwe, Byron Black, who beat Pat Rafter in that match earlier this year.
that's right, he did.
Testing.
Very odd Davis Cup match for us. Unfortunately, Australia lost. Rafter had a virus, played anyway, and as we saw Byron Black play against Tim Henman on the grass, he's not a player to take easily. You can't go into a tough match against Byron Black feeling ill, and everything just went downhill from there, unfortunately.
So this is how Rafter got here. He came here, of course, with success in Holland and carried on beautifully. 4 sets against
Ladies and
Hoiberg,
gentlemen, for the sake of both
3 sets against
players
Nidal,
and spectators, please
and 4 sets against Gustafsson.
switch off your mobile phones.
So he's been the scourge
And
of
if you
the
leave your seats
Scandinavians,
temporarily,
and
do not leave property unattended.
the usual exhortation not to leave articles around if you leave your seats for those watching here at the championships. And Pat Rafter has come off a rather worrying slump when at Queen's Club as recently as 2 weeks ago, Pat, he was saying, look, I'm playing so badly, I don't really know that I want to go on playing. And yet he goes off to Holland the next week and plays quite wonderfully. What a funny game it is.
Well, sometimes you've got to knock yourself into form, and it's pretty tough when you're losing and when you're not in form, but you know, it just takes, sometimes it takes matches, sometimes you do need a break. But you know, I think it's been a very stressful year actually for both these players. You know, Rafter is obviously came out of the blue. He's ranked 60 in the world, just sort of trotting along, nothing flash, and all of a sudden he's number 2 in the world, US Open champion. So the pressure turned around completely. And today, this is the first match that Tim Henman is actually going in without pressure. He's played, I would say, up to date, quite average tennis, you know, compared to Tim's best. But he played like a man who has been under pressure, and so it'll be interesting to see how it switches around today, if it does at all.
Well, in his usual spot there in the corner, David Felgate, his coach, and Tim Newnham, former coach with the British Athletics Federation. Threw the javelin rather well, I seem to remember, Tim Newnham, and he's got Tim Henman in great physical shape.
First set, henman to serve.
So henman it will be to open this fourth round match.
Love. Love. 30-15.
Well, seeing Tim Henman stay back on the first serve. I don't know if he didn't think it was coming back. Rafter didn't take the advantage of coming into the net and making him pay for that.
First game.
Well, Pat, these two have met twice before. Stockholm last year, Rafter won in straight sets, and Sydney this year, the second tournament of the year. It was Henman in straight sets. First time on grass. What difference, if any, does that make?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. I mean, I think the difference here is obviously we're at Wimbledon. There's a pressure. It's a major pressure out here. It's you know, it's okay playing an indoor court away from home. I mean, to a certain extent, Henman did beat Rafter, you know, at his home, and Rafter obviously didn't play that well. Probably felt the pressure. Now we've got the reverse here, where Henman's at home and the crowd wanting him to win. You know, so it'd be interesting to see how the pressure goes. But I mean, I think that it's just an incredible advantage to be playing in your home court here. I mean, you know, with this crowd behind you, you'd expect it to Henman to, you know, really help him. I think certainly through the slump, if he has one at some stage during the match.
Rafter to serve. Mit for serve. Love.
Now this is going to be the key to the match. His second serve on more accurately, how the returner returns the second serve. Good serving of the body here. That's one of Pat Rafter's favourite serves. Henman very quickly moving out of the way.
Interesting tactical point this. Henman likes to stand quite well back for that first serve, but here is the danger. If you get a slice serve out wide like that, well, you're not even going to reach it.
(40-15).
Well, it can't get any easier than this.
1 game all.
Just hit it straight back to him. Of course, the thing is that he's watching the ball and not watching where Rafter was. Of course, you've got to watch the ball. And Rafter could have been moving to cover that obvious down-the-line shot.
(15 love). (30 love).
I think today we're going to be having to watch the percentage of first serves in, because it's going to make a huge difference to both men.
Game, Henman.
Now,
Henman leads by 2 games, 2-1.
Rafter obviously there thinking that the volley from Henman was long, but we're right on that line, and I think you'll see if we watch it again, it landed absolutely on the line. Here it is, the volley coming up right here. It's a good return, nicely punched volley, and right on the line, little puff of white. Well, a good couple of service games from Henman, Tim. Pat, he'll be pretty pleased with those, will Tim?
Yeah, I mean, it's so important to get a good start, get on the board. A nervous start would be, you know, very dangerous. You know, for both players, that you know, they're going to have to, you know, try and settle down as quickly as possible. You're always nervous when you come onto a centre court, especially for a big match. And you know, both these players are starting to get into top form. And you know, he's hit a few tough volleys already. It's always nice to get a few tough volleys in the first couple of games to get your eye in. Because sometimes it actually happens that you're winning your serve so easily, then all of a sudden the guy makes some returns, and you haven't hit a volley for 3 or 4 games. So of course you don't want too tough.
Love 15. All.
Well, interesting. Rafter staying back, playing a poor volley first point, decided to play safe, a bit worried about the henman returns. Oh, he's a great athlete, Pat Rafter. Very, very quick around the net. They're both very quick around the net. It's nice to see that for a change.
Net, first service. Forty 30. Two games on.
Well, it's just great reflexes, anticipation more than anything. The obvious shot again was to cover the open court. Rafter stood still and Tim hit the ball back.
Net, first service. Love.
Playing in his 14th Grand Slam altogether, and playing here at Wimbledon for the 5th time. Don't know what he had for breakfast, but my goodness, he's serving well.
Henman leads by 3 games to 2, first set.
Well, Pat, when I look down at my notes, Henman has lost 1 point on his serve.
And terrific serve it is, actually. Gets up very well. Well, I think this is the weakness of Pat Rafter. Look at the points won on serve. When Tim Henman has got his first serve in, he hasn't lost a point. And he's only lost 1 point altogether, so obviously the second serve percentage very high as well. And you know, Pat Rafter's got a great serve and volley game, and where he struggles is at the returns. It's as simple as that, really.
Well, they always say that the serve is the most important stroke in tennis, but by definition, therefore, the point you made at the start, the guy who can return it best is the one who's going to prevail.
Well, you've never seen a Wimbledon champion who couldn't return serve, break serve consistently. And, you know, the Borgs and the McEnroes and Borgs and Connors, Agassiz, they didn't need to come to the net, but they keep breaking serve all the time. And I'm just wondering about the tactics of Rafter at this early stage. When returning serve, he's so close to the baseline. He's inside. And of course, you have less time to react.
Henman, by contrast, look where he is, way back.
Oh. 15 love. Love.
Not too many genuine serve volleyers left in men's tennis. I was speaking to one of them earlier today. Stefan Edberg's here watching today.
40 love.
And of course, Edberg, is retired.
Net, first service. Game rafter. Three games all.
Well, this match is going to be won and lost by very fine margins. Rafter has only lost 3 points on his serve.
Love.
Well, it's a defensive lob that got Henman back into this point, but that one was just too short. Great defensive lob. Rafter had to go back and was waiting to see if it dropped in or out.
So this is the first time he's been at 30 all on his serve.
40-30.
And it was important to have got the first ball in then.
Game Henman. Ball change, please. Henman leads by 4-3, first set.
Well, Pat, this man has transformed himself physically since I remember him as a junior player some years ago, and he's worked very, very hard with Tim Newnham. Such things as tying round his waist a harness attached to which is one of those bungee rubber ropes, really, and they stretch it out, and he has to run towards Tim Newnham, so that his feet, he's being pulled towards him, and he has to move his feet extra quick, and it's made his footwork, it's improved his footwork out of sight.
Yeah, it's also improves your strength. That's something that I used to do a lot. In actual fact, my trainer sort of pioneered a lot of these techniques, and it does. It obviously gives you strength because you have to pull against the rope, and then when you're coming back, what it does, it helps you actually lengthen your stride when you're running around the court. Some players actually have little steps around the court, but the really quick players really push off and have big, long strides. And so it works in two ways, that. And, you know, Tim's a skinny guy. He's not full of muscle, so he needs to do a lot of this work, and it's certainly helped him.
Love. All.
Rafter a little bit more experienced in terms of Grand Slams played. 23 now, this one is for him. And his 6th Wimbledon.
Well, it's a great half volley that was, right on the baseline. Well, great touch there, just dinking it over. And Rafter went for the more difficult shot. It was quite easy to get to. It was not hit absolutely perfectly. Players will run that down. 30 all.
The first break point of the match.
Henman leads by 5-3.
Well, life is about taking your chances. The first one that comes along, Henman takes beautifully.
Love. 30 love.
So far, Rafter making absolutely no impression against the first serve.
30-15.
Well, that's the first point that Rafter has won of the Henman first serve, which is quite incredible. I think both good serving and just poor returning. He certainly needs to make some now.
Net, first service.
Well, trying to serve into the body, good percentage serve, but just wasn't quite enough pace on that. Rafter got out of the way well.
Second game running, he's been at 30 all.
Well, Rafter had his chance and didn't take it. Gives Henman a set point.
Juice.
Well, the choice of shot there was not very wise.
That is absolute insanity. It's absolutely the most ridiculous shot to play. I mean, Tim's great touch of the net, but he's got set point here. Don't mess around playing dinky shots like that.
Net, first service.
Yes, well played.
Advantage Henman.
Certainly very purposeful on that one, playing the percentages well. Second set point.
Six games to 3.
After just 29 minutes
one set to love.
of play, and really that was a very interesting finish to the set. Having played an unwise shot, he stayed absolutely calm. He looked very focused to me today. I saw him skipping earlier while the rain break was on, and he was absolutely up for this match. But I think, as you've been saying, the key to all of this is going to be the returning of the serve, and so far Rafter has been able to make nothing of it.
No, it's very poor returning. Yeah, a combination, of course, of good serving from Tim, but poor returning. And if I get a chance, I'll show you what he's doing wrong at the moment. I mean, I think one thing is he's a bit too close to the baseline, not giving himself enough time, but it's also his balance very much. And what World Cup?
Well, I think millions are following the World Cup. I'm trying to watch a little bit of it myself, but Difficult when the excitement is on here for all of us. So here's the second set, Rafter to serve.
Love 15.
Well, now, is this called in or out? I'm still not clear.
It's called out. So he looked on the line for me.
Thirty 15. Forty 15. Game, Rafter. First game, second set, first set, henman.
It's interesting, both of these players, both good serve and volleyers, and they work on the same principle on serve and volleying as Stefan Edberg did. And as we know, Stefan Edberg, fantastic serve and volleyer, but he was a bit limited with what he did with his serve. But what he did to absolute perfection, and that was to do, his serve had a lot of bounce on it, and he used to get into the net very, very quickly. And it's quite common knowledge that Tim's favourite player was Stefan Edberg, and Rafter does exactly the same thing. It gets a lot of kick, and then he gets into the net very quickly, look well inside the service line there. And by giving the ball a bit more air and a bit more bounce, that means you can get in a little bit closer to the net, and therefore cover the court very well. And that's exactly what Rafter does. Cover the net very, very well.
At the back there, just behind Tim Newnham, is Tony Roach, coaching at Rafter about 20 weeks of the year, he tells me, on the road with him.
15 love.
Rafter doesn't actually list anybody as his coach, but of course Tony Roach is his Davis Cup coach, and therefore they do spend quite a lot of time together anyway.
Out 30 love. Love.
Well, no call.
Game, henman. 1 game all.
Well, I've got to say, I've never seen the players complaining so much about the service line. You know, you tend to wonder whether the Cyclops is working. It's supposed to be, but I don't quite understand. I've got to say that there's been a few ones that I've thought are long as well.
One game all, second set.
$15 love. $30 love. $40 love. Game rafter. Rafter leads by 2 games to 1. Second set, first set, henman.
So Rafter imperceptibly improving his game, settling into this match, learning to live with all the pressures, which have been a problem for him ever since he won that tournament. In fact, at the end of last year, Pat, you'll remember that article in, I think it was People magazine in America, the 10 sexiest men. He was the only athlete in the list, and of course, it's not exactly the sort of cachet that everybody enjoys.
Well, you just got to get used to it and deal with it. It's funny, really, that both of these players out here have had a lot of pressure on them this year. You know, I think Pat Rafter, he really came out of nowhere to win the US Open. Hasn't had any pressure on him his whole life, really, expectations or attention. And then all of a sudden, everything, you know, and it's, boy, you know, I think it's a bit overwhelming. And of course, he's a big hero back in Australia. He went back to Australia to start the year off.
Time.
You know, had a lot of attention. People wanted him to do everything. You know, talk here, do this interview. Can you do this for us? Can you do that? And it just does take it out of you. There's no doubt about it. And it takes a while to adjust to it. You know, so Rafter's slump is, well, it's probably stopped from last week.
Love 15.
Well, he might have lost this ball in the crowd. He's caught the top of there. I don't know.
Seemed to be watching it all right.
$15 all.
The backdrops here, of course, at Wimbledon behind the players are green. A lot of the stadiums around the world, there is just a low fence, and there's people there. So when you're actually returning serve or hitting a volley, you're looking straight into a lot of white hats or white T-shirts. Very difficult to pick the ball up.
$30-15.
Well, the two hands of poker that have been played, he's won. Guessing right, going to the right place, but missing the open court.
Out. 40-15. Two games all.
Early on in a match, you must pass down the line. You've got to hit to that open court. You can always do the tricky ones later on. But these players have, it's been a very patchy match so far. Some good shots, but mainly a lot of errors, and the players haven't got their rhythm. And you've got to go for that line and go for the winner, make the opposition play. Not give him something easy like that last one that Henman got.
Love 15.
Well, clever play.
Love 30.
Saw that Rafter had to hit the ball up at that stage. To come in, he had the whole court covered.
Well, the noise here, extraordinary.
Love 40.
Easy point, easy shot here, but which way to go? Rafters everywhere. Gives 3 break points.
Yeah, well played.
Well, that was a more firm volley from Rafter.
15-40.
Been very tight and tentative on his volleys so far. Fair enough, it's a big occasion out here.
Henman leads by 3 games to 2, second set, and by 1 set to love.
And the first break of serve in this second set then to Henman, who played a